Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here for you guys. And this is a fantastic contrast to the video I made earlier about intermediate lifters who want to bulk without getting fat. He's basically saying, look, I don't understand why this whole concept of mass equals mass moves mass works in lifting. Why do guys get fat? How does it that some guys who get fatter get really, really strong? It's not like a horsepower of an engine depends upon its weight. And if you think of the human body as an engine, it doesn't make sense because a 250 horsepower engine can do 250 horsepower of work. It doesn't matter how much it actually weighs. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about that. Well, the engine analogy is wrong, but I will throw another analogy out there for you involving the engines, one that most car guys know very, very well who mess with engines. There's no replacement for displacement. Meaning, everyone knows that a bigger engine, more volume in the cylinders, it's easier to make more horsepower with. All right? It's easier to make more horsepower no matter what form of induction you put on an engine, whether it's naturally aspirated, turbocharged, supercharged, whatever. All those things matter, but displacement is a big factor. Makes it a lot easier. And conversely, in certain ways, mass on the human body makes it easier. Not through the same method, but the truth is, it is easier to gain strength when you're gaining fat. It's easier for guys, oftentimes with a higher body composition, to have more absolute strength. Now, where we get into some of the problems here is kind of like I was discussing with the other video. If you gain too much fat and you care about your pound for pound strength, you care about your relative strength, it's going to be a problem. And guess what? Gaining too much fat when you want to trim back down makes it hard to hold on to your muscle when you get leaner. The fatter you are, the more you got to diet to reach a certain body weight. The more you have to diet, the more muscle you lose. Then you end up losing strength. So what's going on here? Why does body fat allow for more absolute strength though? A number of factors. Food is anabolic. Food is anabolic. Carbs are anabolic. Fat is anabolic, not as much as this carbs are. Protein's anabolic. Overeating food causes your muscle cells to get more IGF-1, all right? It causes more production of IGF-1, the hormone that your muscle cells release from training to grow, the hormone that anabolics make your muscles release to grow. Food is anabolic, all right, undeniably, and it's a different pathway from drugs. So technically, someone who stacks a bunch of drugs with a bunch of food gains even more muscle than had they eaten less food on those same drugs. There's a synergistic effect. Now, guys can gain muscle without overeating sometimes on these things, right? We've all seen that happen many times, but that doesn't change the fact that there is a synergy there. Food makes you grow. The problem is, of course, too much food makes your fat cells grow, but you know what? That doesn't mean that it isn't more anabolic. And what I mean is, if you eat enough food to gain a certain amount of muscle with very little fat, you're going to gain that muscle. If you're trained for it, you're going to gain that muscle. If you overeat enough to gain fat, you will gain a little tiny hair more muscle. Is it going to be a lot more muscle? No, it'll be a little more. Meaning if a guy went on a whole bulk and bulked for a year, he did a real clean bulk, real clean bulk, and he only gained 2 pounds of fat. Ultra clean bulk, and he gained 5 pounds of muscle during that time. If the same guy had gone and eaten enough food over that to gain 15 pounds of fat, he might gain 6 or 7 pounds of muscle instead of 5. Now, from a body composition perspective, he's an idiot. If his goal is body composition, it was stupid, right? And anyone who's ever bulked and cut knows exactly what I'm talking about. That's really dumb. Because to gain an additional 13 pounds of fat, to only gain 1 or 2 more pounds of muscle means you're going to have to diet off that 13 pounds of fat. When you diet that 13 pounds of fat off, you might actually lose that extra pound or 2 of muscle that you gained from the dieting process. So if your goal was to be at a certain body fat percentage or to have a certain relative strength, that was not smart. It wasn't smart at all. It's going to backfire on you. But what if your goal was to, I don't care what I weigh. I don't care if I'm 20% body fat. I don't care if I'm 25% body fat. I just want to get as strong as possible. The food itself is anabolic. The food is anabolic. Fat people have more muscle than thinner people who don't. When both don't work out, the fatter people gain more muscle laying around just from the food. From carrying their own fat ass around, they gain muscle. I mean, let's be honest here. It's true. DEXA scans confirm it. Fat people gain more muscle. Food is anabolic. Food is also training fuel. Food is also recovery fuel. All those anabolic hormones that food creates, all that glycogen supercompensation from all the carbs, all the extra insulin shuttles amino acids into your muscles. All right, you recover faster. You can train harder when you are overeating. All right, you're going to gain more muscle. You're going to gain more neural efficiency because you can train more. You can train heavier more often and recover from it from the extra food. So you're going to gain more neuromuscular efficiency on top of just the muscle gains. All right, food will make you stronger. But the problem is it makes you fat also. The fat itself that you gained isn't helping you. If anything, the person's right. Well, you're having to move that extra weight. Technically, if you're holding 30 pounds of extra fat, you're having to squat 30 more pounds than if you were 30 pounds lighter with the same weight on the bar. Even the deadlift, you're moving your own body weight too. In theory, it should hurt some of your lifts. But the thing is, people gain so much extra muscle and strength from the overeating that it doesn't. That's why you see guys like Eddie Hall. Look at Eddie Hall. The dude is fat by most standards. But he's a damn beast. I mean, his feats of strength some of them are unparalleled. I mean, I don't know. I guess is Eddie Hall considered the strongest man in the world now? He might be, actually, now that I think about it. I haven't been following it lately. I know some people are going to be upset to hear that. I haven't been following it. But if he's not the strongest man in the world, he damn sure is close. The dude is fucking strong, but he's fat. He overeats. Now, the question you've got to ask yourself, though, is not, will overeating and getting fat make you stronger? Because it will. It will make you stronger. Being over, all that extra eating with your training for years will make you stronger. The problem is that when it comes to relative strength, how about your Wilks score in a powerlifting meet? How about getting into your weight class? That becomes detrimental. Now, you can get too lean, and if you're not on drugs, being too lean will also hurt you. There's a sweet spot, and that sweet spot, in my experience, for guys who are on no drugs, that sweet spot for the drug-free power lifter or Olympic lifter or strength athlete, if they want to have the highest relative strength, meaning the most strength possible for what they weigh, that 10 to 15% body fat is kind of the sweet spot. That's generally where you want to be. If you're saying, hey, I want to set a national record in powerlifting in my weight class without using any drugs, it's that 10 to 15% your sweet spot. Guys with drugs can get under that. All right. When drugs come into the mix, things like Tren come into the mix, Tren, Anadrol, all that stuff, that sweet spot gets lower. That's why you see guys like Dan Green, Chaos and Pain guy, Jamie Lewis. I mean, these guys are stupid lean when they compete. These guys are under 10% body fat. They are the lean. When you got veins running through your abs, you're lean. All right. I think that's a fair statement to make. They do very, very well, but there's drugs in the equation. But again, this is weight class. When you don't have a weight class to worry about, and you don't care if you die of a heart attack, because, let's be honest here, if you're over 300 pounds, you are at risk of a heart attack. I don't care how much muscle you have. You don't want to be over 300. You don't want to be 300 plus pounds. All right, let's be real. I don't care how much conditioning you have. You don't want to be 300 plus pounds if you don't want to have a heart attack. So if you don't care about these things, though, and someone wants to get strong as possible, yes, overeating and gaining fat and getting fat will help you for all the other reasons I described. It's not the fat itself that's making you stronger. It's the anabolic cascade through your body and all the fuel available for training and recovery from all the overeating. And yes, those things go up when you're gaining fat rapidly. It's not like there's a cutoff point It's the problem is that there's a very rapid diminished returns of you're gaining fat faster than you're gaining muscle at a certain point. That's the problem. And so from a body composition perspective, anytime you're gaining fat faster than you're gaining muscle, and you're going to want to lose that fat later, is probably not a good trade-off. Not a good idea. Not a good idea unless you're already at like 10% body fat or less and you can get away with it. But gaining fat faster than gaining muscle will kill your relative strength because you have to diet it off. But it's the fact that these guys did all this training for years while overeating enough to gain fat, and they never bothered to cut. They never cut and lost strength on a cut. That's why they're so strong. That is a big factor. So people need to remember that. It's not the fat itself making them stronger. It is all the surplus food that they ate for years on end to facilitate a big cascade of anabolic hormones in their body, to facilitate faster recovery, to facilitate all these beneficial things for gaining strength, for training workload, everything else. That's what caused it. And if their fat were just to magically disappear and be liposuctioned off without them having to take time off from training for it, they would be just as strong. In fact, sometimes their squat and stuff would go up because they'd be squatting less weight. So hopefully that explains it. People understand what's going on there, but they do need to understand that, there is a limit to how fast you want to bulk if you care about relative strength. But absolute strength, no. Guys can get fatter. They can gain fat for years on end and never cut, and they're going to keep getting stronger from it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.